I got a bunch of hands on the other end here. My official guest is the one and only Trish Bengsten. But one half of the dynamic duo, there is an invisible man there as well, but we will completely and totally ignore the invisible man. Hello, invisible man. How you doing? As you can see, I take myself when I do these things very seriously, as you can tell. Anyway, let's get a little bit of business out of the way, guys. There is a special little deal at mirrorworldpublishing.com. I'm going to put that little address up for people to do this. If you guys decide to go to the website and buy their anthology, Far, Far Away, and use the code JOSHING, right, you will get 25% off their book, right? So you can go check out Mirror World Publishing, go into the bookstore, go Far, Far Away, and beyond that, folks, you can actually go right now, buy the book, put the code JOSHING in, and you'll get yourself a 25% discount. Okay. That is all the wonderful business and stuff I have to do today, at least for right now. So, and with my very, very serious guest.
Yeah, very serious.
I can
serious.
See. I totally.
I'm like, oh, you're like, oh, I'm gaming. I'm like, oh, what are you gaming? Because we were playing Wizards 101 earlier today. I'm like, yeah. That's right.
Well, see, here is my thing about this whole concept was the fact that for me at least, I have now grown like my Steam controller, I got an error code 43. I got to figure out how to undo that stupid error code because now it's like I can't play like some of the games that require like a control pad, and there was one I really wanted to play. It's all good. Look, I should be creating stuff. I gotta draw shit, and I gotta like write stuff, and I make videos, and I make an ass of myself here all the time. I'm good at that, so.
I'm really good at that too. I mean, it's Mike is the one who made the book, but I just get to be the ass. That's like, what swag do we want?
Wait.
Okay.
Oh, the invisible man's talking. Hello, invisible man.
See, now they can even see.
He's no longer the invisible man.
I chose the editor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who chose the artist?
I did.
Who chose the colorist?
I did.
Who chose the letterer?
I did.
Who chose cover B?
I did.
Cover C?
I did.
Cover D?
I did.
Cover E?
An F with the special cover? Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
I chose the editor. That was my entire... I chose who I would have go over my writing. You chose everything else in the book.
Yep.
She's in charge? Is she in charge? Is she in charge then, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's fair.
I'm in charge of writing. She could have hired me as a writer. It would have been the exact same.
Yes.
But it wouldn't have been my story to tell. It's your story to tell.
You're right, because I wrote it. I'm the writer. You're in charge of everything.
It works for us.
I put you in the credits because people should know that was you. You did all that.
Yeah.
I wrote it. Once again, they need you in this hand.
The invisible hand, ladies and gentlemen. It's the invisible hand. That's a pro wrestling reference, but that's okay. Some people will get it, some won't. But that's all good. So okay. Yes, right. The claw. But anyways.
Oh, don't do the like the what did you do? The one with the dorky guy that he always did the Cobra clutch on himself. He's like,
oh, you mean like that Cobra and then just
yes,
somebody. Yeah.
Santino Morella.
Santino
Morella. Yes.
We're such geeks. I mean, we do all that.
That's okay.
Stuff,
So I've been doing this interview thing for a little while. I ignored the number at the very top. I've been doing this for a while. So I had learned a few things along the way, right? And one of the things I've learned is that human beings, as a general rule of thumb, obsess over shit. And that's a great thing. That's part of who we are. It's also why we're so batshit crazy as a species. We are. That's why. But at the end of the day, the issue is what it comes down to is we all have these things we love, and that's part of life. Like life's filled with all this like big stuff and these things that are beyond our control. and all kinds of other wonderful bullshit. And the truth of the matter is, the absolute truth of the matter is it's the little things that make life worth while. So those things I'm reading comics. Like I went to Calgary, Alberta yesterday and got my stash of comics for the month, and I'm really excited about. And sometime this month I'm getting Snowpaw #1 from Rob and Mog, and I'm gonna be really excited.
We are so excited about that. I mean, it was
Wolfpack.
Yes. How to Rob and all of them. I mean, we love Rob and Mog and all of them, and it was just such an exciting thing. And actually, it was an honor when he called.
Yes, today's Kickstarter.
It was an honor when he called and he said, Trish, could you do me up some buttons? I'm going to be tabling, and would you do me up some buttons? And I said, it would be an honor and a privilege, because I don't know anybody out there that doesn't know, but everybody knows that's my spiel. I love making buttons for anybody and everything. So, like, I can't right now due to doctor's restrictions. Mike's about ready to hit me.
You're not going to get hit.
But
not
I get the elbow to the boob.
Not unless you try to pick the button machine up.
Yeah, it's too much. So right now I can't
throw
do
it out the door.
Right. So I can't make buttons right now.
Let's see. Oh yeah.
Get in Moon. Cool.
Yep. This was
yours?
today's Kickstarter.
That's cool.
Well, it was the one that came in the mail today.
Yeah, our poor mailman has such a poor back from all the Kickstarters that we back and support, because we are huge supporters. That's what we started out as big supporters. But then, like, Tom and Jim showed Mike that you don't have to be in this business. You know, like, you don't have to be born into it. If you have the passion for it, go for it. And Mike had the passion. And
it would certainly help if I was Stan Lee's son.
Right. If you had name recognition.
My, are you sure about that? See, there are two sides to that coin. Yeah, you get all your foot in the door, but now you got the expectations of following Stan the Man Lee. And to be fair, I don't know if there's too many people in the world that could do that, let alone a family member, right? With all these expectations already built on them, it can be a recipe.
But here's the crazy thing: during the 80s, when nobody really cared about Stan, when he would be at like Chicago and be sitting there all alone and nobody cared about him because that's just Stan Lee. You know, there was Mike. Hey, and he always referred to Mike as Big Mike.
That was the 90s, baby.
Well, 90, whatever. I mean, and then like Mike went out to San Diego Comic-Con, and Stan knew who Mike was, and he's like, Big Mike, come here. Let me introduce you to my friend, Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's Mike liked Stan from the beginning. It wasn't just, oh, now he's making these movies. You know, these are the comics I grew up reading in the 70s and back in the day.
Oh yeah, no, like Stan had a very charming life. There's no doubt about it. But there's moments when we do this stuff. Does anybody know we're going to exist? And the thing about, I mean, that's the big risk about being a creative is, you don't know where your work will impact people. You don't. Like, that's why every time you do a project, it's kind of like a swing at the bat. You're like, maybe I hit that ground rule double. Maybe I strike out. You know, maybe like in my case, I accidentally invent a board game. Who knows, right? But it's one of those things where you don't know what you're going to get when you go out, when you put yourself out there the first time.
I totally get what you're talking about, and especially passion. Like Mike. The girls that Mike's writing about, these are characters that we gained. It wasn't that these are just made up random story. These are
that is the definition of made up.
Well, okay, but these were characters that he gained, and he developed them over like a 10-year campaign. It's not just wham bam, thank you, ma'am. They have an actual life outside of the comic too. And now Mike's putting that life outside the comic into the comic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all do that I think all creators do that on some level. Sometimes circumstances kind of like evolve to such a degree that you kind of make some changes and some choices, but you know, it's one of those cool things. Like you get this idea, it's like, I have to tell it. And then you tell it and you go, well, now what? You tell another story and you kind of just keep telling stories. And then eventually one day people go, hey, all these characters are fucking cool. Who made them? Holy shit, it's Stan Lee. Right? And there's some guy named Jack who honestly, in all fairness, did not get the credit he deserved either for a very, very long time. Even posthumously. Yeah, even posthumously. And for those people wondering, those young whippersnappers who might know what I'm talking about, it's Jack Kirby, who is, I think, one of the 3 most required like creatives to look at in comics. Although my other 2 might surprise some people. Will Eisner will not surprise people. But Dr. Seuss was as my third choice, usually does surprise people.
Well, see, a lot of people are with Dr. Seuss and Tolkien. You know, people base them on their not what's written, but like what their real lives were. So no, I don't want to read him because he was, you know, a Nazi supporter, or he was this, or he hated children, or whatever. You know, it's like base the person on what's on the paper, not on their personal life.
That's an interesting topic. It's interesting because we are in an interesting age in the fact that we have more information about people than we ever did. You can find out what everybody stands for pretty much if you take the time to actually look. And there are things like I speak personally. There are things about me that if they ever came to light of day, would probably be like, oh shit. There are things, right? Nothing like absolutely criminal or terrible, but you know, just stupid shit I've done in the past. All right. But I mean, but we all have that right now. Now we have everything's quantified in this like weird little paradigm. And sometimes you kind of go look at ourselves and go, well, but he was stupid here. And my answer to them is like, yes, I was, but I still wrote a kick-ass story. Right. And that's the thing. And the thing is, too, and I go by something Stephen King said. I don't know if you read the Dark Tower finale. He said something about the fact that I'd rather my readers know me through my books, because that's the relationship and the connection I want. And I think that's fair. I don't need to know every little detail about the authors I love. Now, again, I don't want to necessarily, hate crimes and bigotry and stuff like that. Not a big fan of. Totally, like I'm not, but we're all fuck ups on some way, somehow, some way. So,
well, I totally get you. Look at J.K. Rowling's, how much trash. I mean, and she basically gave our girls, you know, who are in their 20s, gave them their childhood, you know, with the Harry Potter. And you know what? Her words are outside of the Harry Potter franchise is her words. You know what I mean? It's still not going to affect that. We still in this house love Harry Potter. And, you know, I just enjoy everything with it. And I mean, every Christmas we're going to watch Harry Potter because that's.
Every Christmas we're going to watch Die Hard.
Well, yeah. Die Hard and Harry Potter.
Die Hard and Harry Potter. That's an interesting combination. So you go from Luminous to like, you know, dancing. No, wait, he didn't dance a jig in Die Hard. It was Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, if I'm not mistaken. That was the line.
That is it. Yep.
Yeah, okay. That's Mike loves saying that saying when we're playing Wizards 101, because when my angel strikes it, and you can't understand her, and he's always saying that's what it sounds like if you listen closely. And I'm like,
it's very angelic.
It's very angelic.
It's very angelic. I totally. So I don't know. Like this is old school. Like the original Street Fighter 2. Do any of you guys remember playing the arcade?
Well, yeah.
Okay, cool. So remember when Ryu and Ken would throw their fireballs? You couldn't understand what they said?
Right.
I always thought that actually was bullshit. Because it's right. I always because you could hear it, right? You could just like now. Eventually, they made like Hadouken, which is what it actually was, and that was what it's supposed to be. But they, especially in like the early versions, they say it so fast. It's like. They almost don't believe the fireball's on the screen. So if they don't believe it, why should I? You know?
Oh, that's my daughter. She's got her Teletubbies. I still have in the closet upstairs, and I still to this day. Are you sure that's what you're saying? What are you saying? You know what I mean? It's like, what subliminal messages were you sending my kid as a child? You know what I mean? I mean, I have great kids, and they're amazing. But I'm like, what were you saying? Were you saying?
You try to make them bad, although, and they shouldn't be bad.
No, they're good.
They're kids' toys, and you're like, what are you saying? No, they're kids' toys.
Hey, listen, we grew up in the Disney era. Disney said lots of terrible things in their cartoons to kids. I mean, there's lots of terrible shit there.
They did, but they said it in such a way that kids didn't understand, so the adults just need to get over themselves.
Not always. I still no. They threw some lines in there that you're like you don't recognize, you don't pick up on them, just where they're at. It's like, ooh, that's not supposed to be in a kid's story. I mean, there's even like in that, like but again, we live in a very, very like weird world. We just do. It's just the way it is. I realize that like one of the things I've learned with people is that we all make an impact on each other, and sometimes it's not a positive one, and right, sometimes it's just not, and you got to accept that, right? And sometimes you're going to make a positive impact that people will be entirely surprised. Like it's always wonderful when you do that, or you have that done to you, where someone just gives you an incredible experience of them as a person, and yeah, so it's one of the things you got to accept, that everybody's going to have an opinion about that somebody, and you just have to accept the fact that the impact can't be argued with, right?
Right.
But the interpretation of how someone sees somebody, that is always, always, always going to be up in the air about everybody, not just famous people. Just if I went on the internet right now and go, who loves Trish? I'd have lots of people go, I love that person. She's awesome. She's got like the dirtiest mind ever. And then there's going to be, but there's still going to be some people.
Oh yeah, I'm going to have haters, and I know that. But that's okay. At least you have a feeling towards me, because those people that don't have feelings towards anything, those are the people I feel the worst for, that are like, that's I would not want to live my life being one of those people. I am very much want to feel one way or another about something. You're
not doing it right till you get a few haters.
That's right. If you ain't got a few haters, you ain't doing it right.
Well, no. It's actually true. Something I've been studying as a freelancer is the fact that, you're the more you take a stand for what you stand for, the more you're going to create a polarity between people. And something else I just wonderfully realized is the people that hate you, they're going to be the ones that support you the most, ironically enough. We are Howard Stern proved this. Mm-hmm. Howard Stern, people that loved Howard Stern would listen to him for 45 minutes. The people that hated him would listen to him twice as long.
Yep.
No. Howard Stern's show was while I worked back when. Yeah. We played that show the entire time we were there working. We listened to all of it. But, it was work, so, well, I mean, we got paid to listen to Howard Stern.
Yeah. Okay, in your case, Mike, it's like they paid you to do it. They I'll do it because I'm paid to do it. But the demographics, especially like in his heyday, that was his demographic. The people that hated him supported him far more than the people that loved him. So what I came to the conclusion is, if I let myself be hated, I'm going to make stupid piles of money.
If it works for you, okay, yeah. If it works for you.
Well, the thing is, what's going to happen is I'm going to filter out people in two categories. They're either going to hate everything I say and listen to everything I do, or they're going to love what I say and support me. Ideally, your audience, your customer base is going to be the people that love you and want to support you, because that's what you're going to create. You're going to create an environment where hopefully the people that feel comfortable standing with you are standing with you, and that's the big thing, right? But that requires, again, in a world in which a lot of us are afraid to take stands on things, it requires that we actually take stands on things. Right? Popular or unpopular doesn't matter. It's about what you believe as a person. But the more you put yourself out there, the more people are going to love or hate you.
Actually, that came to fruition for us because there are some people that worked on our book that are not liked in the community. And it was a choice. It was my friendships, which go beyond the book.
Oh, no, no.
Or a moral stance.
No. There are people on our book that have haters, but they're not hated.
Right. They have haters, but they're not hated.
Steph Wilson has haters.
Right.
They show up. They're funny. They're super, super funny.
Sorry, that's our daughter. I told her not to call because I told her we were on a podcast. Sorry. But yeah,
okay.
our team has haters, but they are known. And so, but I would rather have their friendships mean more than business to me. So if a podcast person is like, I can't stand that person, these people are not. It took us 1.5 years to make this book because Mike had 2 surgeries during this procedure. And he had a 14-pound mass taken off of his life.
I had surgery.
Yep. Okay. We won't go into details, but it was bad. But it took 1.5 years. And these people that worked on our book became more family than just people working on our books. And so if you can't support my team, I totally get that.
No.
But I can't be on your show.
No, and that's fair. Like there are people out there that kind of do what they're doing. So I on a personal, before we talk more about your comic, who's the adult between you two?
I'm the one that put all the money forward to make this comic. I'm the one that worked all the extra overtime, put all my bonuses towards putting this book together. I mean, it is completely done. Besides, we have a special cover done by our friend Doug Brown. He does cast calling on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and he's like, I'll put you in my comic. But he's going to do a special cover for us with 10 people on it, and it's $100 tier. And then that's the only cover. But otherwise, everything else is done with this book. It's all lettered. It's all colored. It's all put together. We are going with a local printer here in town. So we can even watch it come off the rolling pins and stuff like that. We don't have to wait for shipping and delivery to get to us. We go pick it up.
Okay. Hang on a sec.
Okay. Uh-oh.
You want to go to the bathroom and deal with this so that you're off camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
She needs the code.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're fine.
So
you even have to be on camera.
There you
so
go.
They have something on camera.
Okay, go ahead. You deal with that.
Yeah, you're fine. Trish has to do adult stuff.
That's okay. That's so cool. It's nice to meet you, Mike. You actually talk fairly well. You're just not your thing generally to do interviews.
Trish talks so much more. I mean, she's happy doing it. I don't mind talking, although.
No, you two sound like you guys are a hoot together. I like you both have cracked me up just listening to you, and I've just been like, yep, you two are definitely have worked together a long time and been together a long time, and you care about each other. That's an awesome thing, you know.
Yeah, Trish likes to be on shows. I like to be in the audience, just typing out whatever I want to say. There we go.
So you just write away what you want to say. So you'd be like, if I don't like that guy, I'll just come up with a really clever insult on the camera or on the words, right? You'd be like,
I try not to insult people, but I mean, it does happen sometimes. I try not to talk politics and religion. I figure if I can avoid politics and religion, most of it's not going to work, not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. You just seem like a pretty easygoing dude. Like you just seem like, yeah, I'm just going to do my thing, and if you're doing your thing, great, whatever that is. I'm going to wish you well, and let me just go about my way, and you'll go about yours. That's kind of the impression I got of you.
Well, yeah. I mean, Trish is far more polarized. I mean, Trish wants to get in there and talk about this and talk about that, and I'm just like, yep, we did a thing. All right, moving on.
I did a thing. It's cool. High five. Right? It's called this. Please buy my shit. All right.
Well, we just want you to buy the stuff so that we can make the next one. Chuck's already got the script for the next issue, so.
Sweet. Congrats.
Yeah, it's been good.
So, okay, I'm going to ask a magical question then, because you guys said you started off as fans and you decided that you were going to do this. So my question to you was, what was the magical book that made you say, okay, that's it, I'm in. I can make something great.
I really think it was when Chuck and Sean were doing Belial 2.
Ooh.
Belial 2 was released on my birthday. Well, not released. It was the Kickstarter was started on my birthday. And I have read Marvel and DC for 1,000 years, basically. I mean, there were cavemen when I started reading them. And then when COVID hit and shut everything down, I mean, I've read independent titles over the years. From the 90s, Razor's one of my favorite independent titles.
That's a cool one.
But I mean, I didn't pay a lot of attention to independent titles because, you know, you just didn't really have the faith that they would keep coming out. Marvel and DC, you're going to get your next issue of that. But, you know, an independent title, you might pick up one, you might love it, and they might never release the second issue.
Yep.
So
it happens.
I think it drifted away. COVID hit, and we started to pay attention to more live streams and stuff. And it started off with Zindoscope because, you know, they were pretty active with what they did. And we got into their stuff. And then we got into Tom Hutchinson's Big Dog Ink stuff. And I really love Penny for Your Soul.
I loved his take on Wizard of Oz. That was his Wild West, like Dorothy as a Western was, I thought, a really cool idea. I didn't finish it because, again, just my life being as crazy as it is, and I moved around a lot, but I thought it was the best thing he ever came up with, in my opinion. That's just me, but...
I'm spoiled. When I like something, I tend to get all of it. I have
me too.
Basically everything for Big Dog Ink. But we started to pay attention to Kickstarters. I kind of had a bad experience with some Kickstarters. They didn't live up to my expectations beforehand. So I put my toe into the Kickstarter pool, but I hadn't really done much with it. And then we were paying attention to all these live streams, and Belial hit right at the perfect time. We were watching them. Trish managed to get Chuck, Sean, and Russ to take their shirts off. On the live stream. So they got to be crazy and wild. I mean, and that was just Trish, you know, typing comments in, telling them what they had to do, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can do that." And I'm like, "Oh, them guys are crazy," but it was fun, and we backed it kind of big because we wanted to get the tier where Sean drew a cover for us, and he did an amazing job. It's in a box. I probably should keep it out somewhere so I could show people it because it's awesome. But when they were doing that, you know, they didn't seem, you know, like Marvel or DC, like they had $1 million behind them. They were working for their money. And I was like, that might be possible. Yeah. They, you know, they hire people to do stuff. I mean, Sean's an inker, but, you know, he still has a penciler. Yeah, that's you again. Trish almost came back. But yeah, it was probably Belial 2 that really got me to where I think we can do this.
And while Trish is still kind of taking care of everything we're taking care of here, so what was the process like for you in terms of, because when you're creating something, it kind of takes its life of its own, you know what I mean? And because it takes a life of its own, you kind of don't know where it's going to go, how it's going to go, like what's up, what's down. So, like, were you scared? Were you nervous? Was it fun? Like, what was it for you?
I wasn't sure it was going to work out. I mean, I wrote stories for years because I like writing. So I started to write what I thought would work. And I was talking to Chuck about it. We hadn't even hired him as an editor yet. I was just talking to him. And I was like, I really don't know what you have to write to tell them, you know, what to do. I was kind of writing like a play. Like you would see in middle school where, you know, they just gave screen directions and stuff. And Chuck's like, oh, well, if it'd help you out, I'll send you the script to Belial 1. And he did. He sent me the entire script to Blyle 1, and I realized it wasn't very far off of what I was doing. So I modified what I was doing to fit that type of script. And I was talking to him, and I was like, I think this will work. And slowly but surely, I decided that, we would give it a try. And then we hired him as an editor because Chuck has a wealth of knowledge. That guy knows a lot about stuff. And we needed to have that kind of knowledge. And I think we redid my script 2 or 3 times, every time making it better. So it kind of worked from there. We went online, we looked around for an artist, and as soon as people find out that you're going to pay money, you're going to get a lot of people that will tell you they'll do art.
Oh, yes.
Some of them are not what you want.
Nope.
We had one guy that would do art for $8 a page, but it's not art that you would want to use, really.
Get what you pay. You get what you pay for at that point, usually.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that. But we found an artist that we liked what he did, and he was working to where we could afford it, and then it kind of rolled from there. I mean, honestly, that was getting the script out and hiring the artist, and after that, you're kind of on a roll because once you paid out a lot of money to get the art, you're going to get it colored, and then you're going to get it lettered, and then you're going to make the book.
Yeah.
Even if the Kickstarter fails, I'm positive we will put this book out. Even if we do it with our own money.
I believe it. I totally believe it. Like the real secret to a lot of this stuff, honestly, is something an early freelance lesson I learned was the more money something gets put into it, the more likely it's going to get done. That's just how the world works. That is just entirely how the world works. If someone wants to spend less money on something, they don't value it. If someone wants to spend top dollar on something, they value it more than anything. So the more money you put into something, the more you're willing to invest in it, the more likely it will see the light of day at some point down the road, even if it's not as you plan it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like I said, I'm pretty spoiled. Basically, anything that I want, Trish tried to figure out how to get it for me. It turns out that Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane will not be doing covers on my book. But if Trish could have figured out how to make it happen, she would have. But, those guys are way out of the ballpark.
Price right. Well, it's I mean, they got to do what they got to do for their own reputations. Obviously, that's a big part of that too. Like, I can't, true story, like in my case in particular, because I interview people so much, I can't do shows for free for other people. Like in terms of actually interviewing or hosting or something like that, because I get paid to do it. Can't do that for less. But every so often, if it's someone I really care about or somebody I want to help and support, I'll find a way to kind of make it work. My advice there, if you want to try to get Todd and Jim, get to know them on a first name basis. Then you might be able to get to talk them into something down the road. It's just how it works. Relationships are the foundation of all business at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, I've met all of my idols basically. So I met Jim Lee. I talked to him in an elevator in our hotel one time. I've met Todd McFarlane. I've got a bunch of old Spawn signed that just sit in boxes. But, I don't really know them. I mean,
I get that. I get that.
I got the common relationship with them. Which is
that's totally fine. But like I said, just like that, this is what I've learned doing what I've been doing. You can get a lot by asking. You really can. The question is, are you willing to take the time to invest in the relationship with the person you're trying to and not in the hopes of getting stuff either, folks. I'm not saying that either. What tends to happen in life, much like anything else, the people you know are the people you're going to end up working with in some capacity or another. Right? One of the reasons you worked with Chuck was because, Chuck is awesome, but you also knew him. You had an idea of who he was as a person. And because of that, it was easier to make that connection in that relationship Chuck. And Chuck's a great editor. He's a great creative mind. He really, really is. But what it comes down to there in that situation is, there's a familiarity with the individual, and people tend to go with what they're familiar with. But it's true with everybody, right? Anybody you meet, you can develop that connection with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think I have anybody working on the book that I wouldn't go out and have a burger and fries with.
Exactly.
I mean, with Chuck, we'd have to try to find Canadian bacon to work into the meal, but I mean...
Yeah, totally.
I live in the South, so I don't know where we would find it.
Whereabouts in the South you live?
Arkansas. Chuck lives over in Texas, so...
Yeah, Texas, you can do it. Arkansas, I don't know. I just don't know that area at all. So I can't think of anything.
Arkansas touches Texas, so I mean.
Oh, I know. I know. I never went to Arkansas, so I don't know anything about it. Like I've been there. I lived in Arizona. I've been to Texas. I've been to California, right? So I kind of know a little bit of the area, but I never went to Arkansas, so I can't make a comment one way or the other there. Usually, like you guys, there are all these like cool. Like every place you go to, there's always like these cool hidden little gems somewhere. And usually some of those hidden little gems, you get those really cool treasures. But I don't know your neck of the woods at all, so I have no idea where to even like start thinking about it. So
yeah, well, I mean, I used to live in Iowa. That's also just a flyover state. So, But back then, I lived a couple hours away from Chicago. Chicago, yes. Everybody's been there. Well, I mean, most people have been there.
Well, there's the city of Chicago, and then there's the Chicago airport. A lot of people have been through the Chicago airport, not necessarily through the airport sucks. It really does. It's just too freaking big. It's just...
the craziest airport I was at was Denver.
Okay.
Denver was a real crazy airport, and every time I fly out to San Diego, you end up going through Denver, and I'm just like, oh no, it's a giant. I mean, they have to put your planes on each side of the airport. I think everything is across the whole airport.
I did that. That was Chicago for me. It was like I was on one end, and I literally had to run to get to my flight, and I only just made it. It was like, wow, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Nope, there's not. Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. So, okay, man, when did you first start reading comics? Like way back. Like, what was your first books?
Well, when I first got my first comic, I couldn't possibly have read it. I mean, I was maybe 6 years old. I asked my dad for a Superman and a Spider-Man coloring book. And we lived out in the country, so when he went into town, he got us stuff, and he was, good with that and everything. Well, he got me a Superman coloring book, but he couldn't find a Spider-Man coloring book because it was the 70s. So, he just stopped by the little shop that, he knew, and he picked up a Spider-Man comic book for me. It was not a kid's book neither. It was just an issue of Spider-Man. So I couldn't read it. I bothered everybody that could read to read it to me until I memorized the whole issue. Where I still don't really think I could read it back then. I could tell you all the words because I'd had people do it so often, like cousins and stuff, that I knew everything that was happening in the book. But yeah, after that, I got a ton of comic books here and there, like yard sales and stuff like that. We were poor, so.
Yeah, I got it.
But it was a thing. Go to 7-Eleven and get Slurpees that had the comic cups and everything back then.
Oh yeah, I still remember the old spinner racks from those eras. Like I like that. Like they don't exist anymore, but they're still fucking cool.
They still exist. They're far more rare now. And now that, I mean, looking back, you realize that you got a lot of damaged books because of the spinner rack. So it was not a 9.8, type of deal for that.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it came down to like two things. Comics weren't a collector's item. They were always a collector's item, but at the time there was so many more comics printed back then that, you know, like I still remember when the price of the comic was 25 cents. I still remember that, you know, back in my day for sure. I mean, I've seen 5 cent, like these big giant but again, they're not printed on the best quality stuff to begin with, because when they made this stuff, they thought no one's going to keep this stuff, but that's okay. It's part of the fun. Lo and behold, decades and decades later, that shit is worth its weight in gold, because again, going back to what I was talking to your lovely wife about, people obsess over shit. And it sounds like for you, like comics were your obsession.
Oh yeah, I had tons of them. I probably lost more comics than some people will ever own.
I believe it. 1970 Spider-Man. So that issue was probably worth some money. Maybe not after how many times you read it, but I mean, still, I mean, that era of Spider-Man is still some of the best stuff out there that they've ever made.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I still love Spider-Man, so.
So what do you think of the Spider-Verse stuff?
You know, sometimes it gets a little crazy. It's like the X-Men. I like the X-Men, and they make, I don't know, 10 or more titles of the X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
So I get annoyed and they're not all the same quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh. So a while back, I cut down a bunch of books because I was just collecting. It's easy to add books that you're collecting. Like, oh, I'll pick that up. Oh, I'll pick that up. Oh, and then one day you realize, I've got to say, I don't want to get some of this stuff. I cut a ton of DC out of my stuff just because DC was having such a mess with shipping for a while there.
Well, for me, because of Kickstarter, I'm down to 4 books from a comic shop. Right, stuff I really liked as a kid. So I grew up reading Green Lantern. So I'm a Green Lantern guy. So I'm always going to pick up even if the book's not great, I'm going to pick it up. It's kind of like that's my default book, right?
Yeah, and I love Green Lantern. Kyle is my favorite Lantern. But I finally stopped getting Green Lantern because those last 2 year-long HAL series, they were kind of crazy and odd, and I was just like, oh.
Yes. So I know. Do you want to know what they were homaging there? I'll tell you, because I know, because I have some of the original HALs around, like anything. Okay, so most people know HAL from like the Green Lantern, Green Arrow era and beyond. That's the HAL Jordan we generally have today. The HAL they were referring to, although they did make him a little weird on purpose, and I like their reasoning for it. The fact is, all the stuff they were referring to were in the first 74 issues of Green Lantern. All of it. Like Meridian, the Evil Star, all the kooky little things you saw in Liam Sharp's and Grant Morrison's run comes from that era. They were homaging that big time. But as you can see when you read this stuff, not all of it was actually good.
Well, yeah, I mean, because storytelling has changed. I get these epic books from Marvel every once in a while, and I'm a big fan of the Mighty Thor. I mean, if it's Marvel, I really like Thor. If it's DC, I really like Green Lantern as far as a single character. And I read the first epic of Thor, which is all the super early issues, and I'm like, these stories wouldn't fly today.
No.
If you release this book as, you know, like a new title, I mean, if you release it like, oh, this is an old book, you're fine. But otherwise, the stories are like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, it's some of the stories don't. Some do. Like, there are some stories from back then that still stand up well today. But a lot of the you got to remember when they wrote a lot of those old stories, right? They used to not even be full issues. They used to be something like 12 to 16 page stories. Then you'd get like a bonus story on top of what you got, which is another 8 pages, right? Which wasn't bad. But if you look at again, there was no multi-part epics. There was not a lot of the character development, how they developed the characters. The thing that worked that I wish was done more often was you can put little things in, like little gems in all your books, and you can pay them off later on in your series. Say everything you've built up in the background. That they did a lot better than now. But if you're looking at like character development, dialogue, the way, the pacing of how they tell a story, it's very different today. And some of it's better, I think. A lot of it's better. Some of it's worse. Like I said, they don't do a lot of the little things as much today, but they do. But the characters feel a lot realer. And that's something that's a credit to a lot of today's.
Well, I think one of the hardest things today, unlike back then, is trust that they're actually gonna stay with any of the changes.
Mm-hmm.
They killed Superman, they broke Batman's back, they killed basically every major character I think there is, and they brought him back.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them they've even replaced, like Jane Foster was Thor for a long time.
Yeah, she was good.
And then,
I enjoyed her.
And then they went back. And Rhodey replaced Tony as Iron Man for a long time. Then they went back. So I mean, there's no real chance the characters are gonna change for good, really. But you might get a change for a little while. The current Spider-Man stories like that.
Oh yeah, well, Spider-Man's like we can talk about some of the Spider-Man's biggest disasters have come from trying to go back to an older status quo. I of all the characters in comics, Spider-Man was the one that had the chance you can constantly keep him growing, right? I think he'd be a great dad. I think he'd be a great husband on top of being Spider-Man. And changing that dynamic a little bit, maybe like I said, I was always a big fan of, I think it was Mayday, like his daughter becoming Spider-Man at some point down the road. I was a big fan of that. I thought that was a really cool space for Peter personally to be in, because she's my little girl and I don't want her to get hurt, but she's doing everything he did, and and he's seeing it from a very different place than when he was doing it. That's interesting. That's actually really interesting. Even though he doesn't even have to be the main character in that anymore either, which I think is also really good. You can take the Spider-Man journey with a different character and create a different result. And that I thought, but because the problem is, and I get this from a business standpoint, you make an investment in a character, and a character makes you a shit ton of money. Well, in real life, baby's got bills to pay, right? So you go back to what works eventually. So I understand that on one hand, but on the other hand, from a creative standpoint, right, that means that once you hit that point with a character, they're only going to grow so far. So at that point, you got to kind of make a decision what you're going to do. Personally, what I wish creatives would do more in bigger, again, I think creatives are a lot more honest about it today in the big two, but it's this. If you're going to make a character, you're going to do stuff with this character, well, you got your run, and that's it. Nothing you're going to make is permanent. Everything is subject to change. So all you can really control is the story you're telling in that moment. So if I was going to write a character for today in today's comics, that's what I'd be worried about. I wouldn't be worried about continuity. I wouldn't be worried about a lot of that stuff. What I'd be worried about, okay, I got this really cool story about Miss Marvel. I got this really cool story about the X-Men. I'm going to tell that story. And then we're going to see what happens. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, they'll delete me anyway. I'm good with it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And it's what's going to happen no matter what. I mean, you're going to go in there, work on a character, and then maybe they'll keep some pieces of what you did. But most of what you did is just going to be water under the bridge when they're done. But then there's so much history, it's hard to deny it. I mean, my daughter is a huge Batman fan, the one that has Trish busy right now. And, Batman's got to be sort of a dad's age no matter how they work it, because Dick Grayson, who's still, part of the thing, was a small child when he started with Batman, and he's grown into a man now. Batman was an adult when he started, so, I mean, if Dick has gained 20 or so years, Batman should be in his 40s now.
Mm-hmm.
And there should be some development there. And sometimes they pay attention to it, and other times they ignore it. And I'm just like, Now there is changes finally being made that are sticking. Like, Superman's a dad.
Yes.
I'm like, good. Now there's some craziness in the Superman titles, of course, because it's comics. But at least, it shows that he's moved forward in life. And they managed to make his marriage work, which was nice.
Yes. Well, some characters are a lot better at certain things and than others. That's just the way it is. Superman is also great dad material. And the best thing about that is you could put him in the background where he might actually be a better character as a background character for a lot of creatives and focus on the development of his kid. Like I've talked about this in the past with other creatives. I think the best thing DC has come up with in years is Super Sons. Right? It's one of the best. It's a great take on the Brave and the Bold and it's Damian and Jonathan Kent, and I thought that is an amazingly cool dynamic. And it wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. I think it's the most original, best concept they've come up with in the last 5 years. Easy.
One of the hardest things about Marvel and DC, although for me, is trust. Trust that they're going to carry these stories out to a conclusion. Because they'll release a new title and it'll look like it's cool, and then I'll be like, I don't know if they're really going to do anything with it. I mean, they release a Ghost Rider title, and I'm like, am I going to get 6 issues of it or so? And then it'll be gone again?
Yeah.
So Super Sons, which, turns out to be really good, they stuck with the concept. I didn't think they would. I thought the little kid Damian Wayne was just going to be a flash in the pan. He was going to be like, oh, look what we did. And then they'd gloss over it and we'd move on. So I kind of ignored him early on.
Oh, yeah.
Anything I have with Damian Wayne in the early issues is just because I was interested in a different part of the story, and just, that's why.
Oh, yeah.
So they released something that's really good, and I just, Kate Bishop as the new Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to work out for them. I figured it was just like when they made Jane Foster Thor. I mean, they did that for years, and then she went away, and that was that. I was just well, Kate Bishop will never last. She did.
Yeah, well, again, you never know. I mean, that's the thing. You're kind of taking a chance. I have a tendency when I get mainstream books, I actually try the different stuff. Because to me, I've read if I haven't read something like this before, I'll give you an example. I got the first 20 issues of Immortal Hulk. That was until the pandemic completely screwed it up. That book's brilliant. That book was amazing. It was an amazingly fun run. And they turned Hulk into an old school EC comic monster. But I never read any of the Hulk prior to this. So for me, it was my first time. Would I read another Hulk book? Probably not. Just because it's different. When Thor became Jane Foster, I read that whole run. I think overall it's probably one of the best modern Thor runs ever. It's very meta Thor in a very real way. But at the same time, once it switched back, I walked away from it because to me, I just thought I've already read a Thor story. I don't need to read another one. And the same with any other of the big concepts I've tried. Green Lantern's kind of my exception. The other one is just because, again, I'm a 90s kid at heart, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was a big fan of the cartoon when I was a kid. So that's one of the other books I'm reading right now. It's very much like the Turtles I knew, but it's also a different story. And I'm enjoying the ride for however long it goes, right? It's currently at 124 issues. I didn't think it'd go that long, but here we are, right? but that's just I will, but then I'll try something like Saiga or Nightly News or Serial by Terry Moore, or because I don't just want the same stories. But the thing I accept now, though, when I do this, is why I'm like I said, I'm down to 4 books at the comic shop, just 4, right? And every once in a while, I'll grab like a mini to make it 5. But what it comes down to is just because if I want to get original stories, original ideas, original thoughts, it will be on Kickstarter where I see these things.
Yeah, Kickstarters are great. I mean, you're going to get a story, and that story has unlimited potential.
Mm-hmm.
The only rough part about Kickstarter is it takes so long to get the next part of the story. You're like, oh, yes. Come on. And since I've made an issue now, I'm like, this is a lot of work and takes a lot of time.
Yes.
I don't have a Marvel team. It won't be a 30-day turnaround.
But that's okay too. Again, it's not about being the 30-day monthly thing is great when you have a team. Like you have a big team, that's all they're doing. But if you don't have that, you got to just do it when you can. Same with me. I'm trying to release 3 books this year. Not comics, just books, novels, whatever the case may be for the year. I don't have firm release dates down for any of these books right now because one's edited, one's being written. One's going about in the editing phase. One's being written. I got another one I want to do down the road, which it continues with what I'm working on already. Those are my plans, but life has a way of happening. Things just go where they're going to go. And when and that's just life. But so that 30-day or that every 3 month or whatever the case may be, what matters is that you speak with your audience, you serve them as best you can, and just let them know what's going on from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah, I got great respect for all the creators that drop me a note and tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's a blast too. I mean, it hits all your Kickstarter audience, I think.
Yes.
I get those Kickstarter updates. They're like the book's at the printer, the book's being lettered, the book's being whatever. And sure, it's a letter that went out to everybody, but it's great. It works well.
Yeah.
I've luckily not been burned on any Kickstarters, I don't think. Although I do have some Kickstarters that have taken a really long time to get to me. The people are still telling me progress updates on stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, and that's the deal. Like okay, that's all that matters. We are in like, although this is probably not going to be a popular opinion from some people, and that's this. It's like we are in the customer service business at the end of the day. You're doing a story you're trying to tell, or you're trying to, right? And you want to hopefully get people to invest in your story. Well, the only way you're going to do that is to get people involved with what you're doing. That's just the way it is. So you have to communicate and you have to let people know what's going on. The moment we talked about artists that always up to snuff. When I did the original thing for my Alice, the art I wanted for Alice, I had a gentleman approach me. He did a Kickstarter years ago. I still don't know. I asked him a long time ago what was going on with his Kickstarter. I never heard back from them. And now they came to me for artwork. That was like one of those like weird little like wow moments. And it like you can't make this up. So it's just like one of those things where you just look at it and go, but I might have been a lot more eager to listen to them had they told me what was going on with their project back in the day.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's rough.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I've gotten lucky. Most everybody's come through. Sometimes it runs a little late.
Sure.
That happens. I mean, life is just life.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, and again, I'm not upset that the project didn't happen. I'm more annoyed that I never got an explanation. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Mr. Mike, I did not expect to be interviewing you for quite this long on your own.
I was, pleasantly surprised. It worked out really well. I'm sorry that Trish has been
No, it's all good.
dealing with our daughter.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
but she's going to be sad that she missed over half the show.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, here's the thing. You guys can always come back again. But this time you're not going to be But I have bad news for you, my friend. You're actually an engaging guy when you want to be.
I want to reschedule, and that I'm dealing with our daughter falling on ice and getting a phone replacement. So tell him I'm really sorry.
I think he probably heard you.
Okay.
Yeah. I heard you.
Trish is kind of loud.
It's okay. But Mike, I'm just saying the next time you come back on the show, you're not going to be the invisible hand anymore. You actually can be quite engaging when you want to be.
I've never actually been the invisible hand, but I prefer, Trish have her happiness.
Yes. No, it's all good, dude. I get it. And I mean, you've been gracious with this interview anyway. I'm not saying you haven't been. I'm just saying you're an engaging guy in your own right as well. So I enjoyed the brief interactions I did have with the both of you. And when's your Kickstarter going up?
This Friday.
Ooh, congratulations.
Yeah, we're going to launch it in the morning. I'm going to try to ignore it as much as I can. Well, no, I should explain, I guess. I'm going to try to ignore the numbers as best I can.
That's fair.
I don't want to be one of those people that's like, did we get another backer? Did we get $10 more? I don't want to do that. I want to start it. I'm happy to be on shows. I'm happy to talk to people about stuff. But, I don't want to just live for the numbers, because that looks like it drives people crazy.
It's a weird. Okay, so my book came out in December. It's been weird. It's been a weird thing, because what I'm going for is reviews and people to buy the book. So every day I go on KDP and I'm like, okay, did I get a new sale? Did I get a new sale or something red or something to that effect? No, I have not. But then every once in a while you get up and it's like yesterday I checked it out. I had a new review on Amazon. Woo! I got a new review on Amazon, which is kind of cool, right? And then you get this weird little abusive relationship when something happens, right? And it's normal. It's totally AF Stewart, one of the people here. Sorry, Trish had to step away, but it was a good interview nonetheless. Well, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Of course, when I seen a message pop up, I thought it was Trish from her phone trying to be like, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, if I wasn't filming a little bit later on tonight, on another project, I'd happily pitch. I'd like do a longer interview with you guys. So how long is your Kickstarter going to go? If you don't mind my asking.
Oh, well, it worked out. We've been putting off this Kickstarter since October because I had a surgery and then Trish had a surgery. Trish had spine surgery less than a month ago. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she is jiggy is amazing. And so we've been putting it off. The book's really been done since before October. We were waiting on some covers, but we could have launched without the finished covers. And I'm just like, oh no. So we didn't want to launch in December, and Trish had that surgery, and I was like, So, Chuck, in his wisdom, said, you should do some pre-launch stuff before you launch. We're going to launch this Friday on the 14th, and we're going to run through Valentine's Day, February.
Ooh, okay.
And that really worked out good for me because in the history of the character, Brink's birthday is the 14th of February. So
that's really cool.
That's great.
That's really cool, actually.
And that'll be, about 30 days of go. And then we can start with, working on fulfillment.
Sounds good. So then between now and the 14th of February, if you want to come back sometime in February and talk about your book proper would you like to do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Trish will get a hold of you. And I mean, she already said from upstairs that she has to set up another day. I mean, I'm sure she's sad, but life has to be dealt with.
Boy, it sounds like your daughter needed some help, and you know, if she needs help, you need help. That's his life. Hey, listen, it makes you feel better. I had a 3-year-old hold my show hostage in the middle of an episode, so I know my place. I know my place in the universe. I really, really do. It's kind of one of those things. But for just real quickly here for the elevator pitch, it says Brink and Fetch want to have fun. So what's it about?
It's about 2 girls making their own rules up about love and magic. They're going to encounter some craziness along the way, and there's some supernatural elements that they're unaware are going to get in their way.
So would you describe it?
Should be a lot of fun, I think. I'm hoping.
Did you have fun with it when you put it together?
I had a lot of fun putting it all out there. Every part of the process, I think, has been fun. The only thing I have a hard time with is I'm not very good at being critical of anything. So I thank the world that, you know, I've got Chuck to help me out and just tell me this has to be better. This has to be right. This, because I get artwork and I'm just like, woo, look at my characters.
And that's what AF says. Very cool title.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's fun.
It sounds like you had a blast with it, and it's okay not to be It's okay. It's hard sometimes. You're smart enough to know that you need help to see the forest from the trees, and that in of itself means you're just trying to do the best you possibly can. So
but I think when you have a book, you need somebody that wants to be critical of it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And if you can do it, great. But if you can't, you need to find someone that can be, you know, like this has to be better.
See, I think you need outside source regardless, because even though you have your own idea of what is good, you have your own idea of that, there's no way to absolutely 100% tell. Because again, there's things you're too close to it. There's just no way you're going to know perfectly forest and the trees. An outside perspective doesn't have your biases. So they'll be able to look at things a little bit, in some ways anyway, clearer than what you can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. When I went into making a book, I really thought that an editor was just to like proofread the words and stuff, and to, you know, make sure you didn't do any. In the first page you said this, you can't say that later on, like
continuity stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was like continuity. Chuck has taught me so much about how important having an editor there is. But then everybody along the way, the artist has shown me better ways of doing the sketches than what I originally wrote. The colorist, you know, told me that sometimes colors don't work real well on the same scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh, I didn't know. And it's all worked out really, really well. But we've run over your hour.
Well, it's okay we run over the hour. So I like to do that, Don. You went 2.5 hours. It's all good. I had to unfortunately go do something else. But first and foremost, before I wrap up, both to Trish and yourself, thank you very much for coming in at the last moment the way you guys did. Appreciate it. And for everybody watching and listening, once again, the Kickstarter project is here. By the time this airs as an audio, this will be live and ready to go. And I definitely encourage everybody to go check it out. And I want to thank Mike and Trish for being good sports. And Trish, when you do listen to this interview at some point down the road, it was fun while it lasted. Next time, we'll do it. We'll do it with proper style. Life happens, and I totally get that. So this Friday, guys, if you want, I actually put a little note myself that when your book is up and running, that I'll definitely be checking it out. So beyond the Kickstarter, is there anywhere people can find you guys?
You can always find us on Facebook. Probably the most abused platform there is. I mean, I have an Instagram account and I have a Twitter account, and I think I have a TikTok that, you know, my daughter would be the only one that could figure out. But I mean, I go to Instagram to look at art. I don't really post anything there.
No, I totally get that. I totally get that. Do you mind if I put your Facebook up for the moment,
Oh no,
sir?
no, go ahead. I mean,
yeah, I'm going to do it like this. So, folks, you want to go find Mike. Next time I come back with Trish, we'll go give a proper promo for Trish as well. But this is for everybody that wants to get to know Mike. I just see Mike's a really cool dude, right?
Well, plus from my Facebook, they can find Trish. I mean, she's on there a lot.
Yeah, so guys, go definitely check that out. And good luck with your book, my friend. I hope it goes exceedingly well. And to everybody watching, everybody listening, this is it. This is the first stream for my first Monday of the year for a stream. Tomorrow, I get joined by the incredible Katie Solitis. And then I got a great week with Madeline Dale, Michaela Jade, and Lisa Marie Treese to round up my first full week back in the swing of things. It's going to be a very, very fun time. If you are listening to this, then this is a listeners exclusive more than a watching exclusive. I'm also being sponsored this month by Blondie's, a local coffee shop located in Canmore. If you are in the Canmore area and go to Blondie's and you say just Joshing Special, you get a 16-ounce coffee for the price of a 12-ounce coffee. I'm just putting this out there. It's a great place, great service, letting you guys know this up front, and I'm doing my due diligence, my last little bit of business. To everybody else watching and listening, first off, again, thank you to Mike and thank you to Trish. The last bit of business I'm going to say today is this. My current book, Alice 1, is available now. I've been getting some pretty nice reviews and ratings of the series since the release of the second book of it. So I want to thank everybody for that. If you are interested in it, definitely go check it out here. You can pick it up right now, written by yours truly, illustrated by Kenzie Carr. Right? And to everybody watching, everybody listening, thanks very much. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
See you later.